Hello there, and today we're going to be looking at two insanely talented Force users, Starkiller and Anakin Skywalker. Anakin's story is completely canon and the basis of the whole Skywalker saga. However, Starkiller's story is non-canon and exists outside of the official timeline. Still, it is an interesting thought experiment to stack the two powerful Force users up against each other and see how they rank. But let's start things off by taking a quick look at both Anakin and Starkiller and exploring their individual stories. First off, we have Anakin Skywalker. Born in the Outer Rim, he and his mother Shmi moved to the desert planet of Tatooine, where they were bought and sold as slaves. They eventually come into the possession of a Toydarian junk owner called Watto. It was when Anakin was 9 years old that Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn discovered his raw and untapped Force potential. Believing him to be the chosen one who would bring balance to the Force, Qui-Gon freed Anakin and took him to the Jedi Council on Coruscant. After the untimely death of Qui-Gon and the blade of Sith apprentice Darth Maul, Anakin was trained by Jinn's apprentice Obi-Wan Kenobi. He grew up to be a powerful but flawed Jedi who fought bravely as a general in the Clone Wars. During this time, he also fell in love with Senator Padme Amidala. The two conceived children, but Anakin turned to the dark side of the Force before their birth, ceasing to be Anakin Skywalker and becoming Darth Vader under his new master Darth Sidious. So that was a brief overview of Anakin, but what about Starkiller? Well, Starkiller, or Galen Marek as he is also known, was the son of two powerful Jedi. He was born during the late stages of the Clone Wars and went into hiding with his parents during the Great Purge, where all Jedi were wiped out. As Darth Vader personally oversaw the attack on the Wookiee homeworld of Kashyyyk, he discovered the Marek family in hiding. Sensing how powerful the toddler was in the Force, Vader killed his parents and took the child to raise and train as his own secret apprentice. Over the years, Vader shaped Galen, now commonly referred to as Starkiller, to be his personal assassin, intending to use his insanely powerful apprentice to overthrow and kill his master, Darth Sidious. Unfortunately for the Sith Lord, while on a mission, Starkiller fell in love with an Imperial pilot named Juno. He eventually abandoned Vader and helped plant the seeds of what would one day become the Rebel Alliance. So that's a very brief backstory of both Anakin Skywalker and Starkiller. There's a lot we didn't cover. So, for Anakin's full story, check out the Skywalker saga, and for Starkiller's full story, you can play The Force Unleashed and The Force Unleashed 2 games. But now let's stack them up against each other and see how they compare in a variety of categories. And first up, we're going to be looking at their strength and connection to the Force. Starkiller is an undeniably strong Force user. He had raw power even as a toddler, and his connection to the Force and strength only grew the older he got. In fact, in one iconic scene, in The Force Unleashed, Starkiller pulls an entire Imperial Star Destroyer from orbit around Raxus Prime and forces it to crash into the junkyard planes. He was trained to kill from a young age and used the Force to achieve his goals. Starkiller truly used the Force as a blunt Force weapon that he could bludgeon his enemies with. He even mastered the power of Force Lightning, not something that many Force users were able to do. As you can tell, Starkiller was a powerful and absolute natural Force user. But let's for a moment consider Anakin Skywalker's strength and connection to the Force. As the Chosen One, Anakin and the Force almost go hand in hand. Conceived by the Force itself, there have been very few people in the history of the known galaxy that have ever had that intimately close working relationship with the Force. Power-wise, Anakin had always been a remarkable child. While his Force abilities never truly flourished until he was taken into the Jedi Order, he still displayed them while racing pods for various slave owners. It was when he began his formal training that his true strength started to show. He grew into a powerful combatant, rivaling even the strongest Jedi in the Order when it came to lightsaber fights. His connection to Padme and his fear of losing the ones he loved turbocharged his Force abilities and took them to a level that had previously been unseen. Anakin truly had an intimate and unrivaled connection to the Force. However, Starkiller's flashy flair for how he wielded the Force and admittedly overpowered strength in the game gives him the edge in this particular category. Next, we're going to lightsaber combat and who they have dueled. We'll start with Starkiller. He might have been strong with the Force, but when it came to lightsaber duel opponents, his options were slim. He first battled the old and out of touch Jedi Ram Kota, which ended with Starkiller winning and blinding the old master. Next up, he faced the unhinged and slightly crazy Jedi Kazdan Paratis, whom he eventually defeated. His next opponent, Shak-Ti, was a lot more of a challenge when he faced her on Felucia. However, he bested her in the duel and forced her into the jaws of the huge Sarlacc. However, he hit her well when facing his own master, Darth Vader. The half-man, half-machine Sith Lord absolutely dominated Starkiller in lightsaber combat, and despite the young Force user getting in a few lucky hits and doing some damage to Vader, Starkiller was defeated and as such went into hiding. Anakin, on the other hand, was an unstoppable force when it came to lightsaber combat. His first major duel came when he faced off against Count Dooku while he was a Padawan. His inexperience and enthusiasm led to him losing an arm. It was a mistake that he would learn from though. After that, Anakin was careful never to make the same mistake again. He would often channel his connection to the dark side of the Force into his lightsaber combat, giving him extra strength and overpowering whomever he was dueling. He faced powerful Sith assassin Asajj Ventress on several occasions, beating her every single time. He also battled Sith Lord Count Dooku multiple times, culminating during the closing battles of the Clone Wars, where Anakin cut off his opponent's hands before beheading him, the ultimate revenge for losing an arm.
Kill him.
As he descended into becoming Darth Sidious's apprentice, Anakin found himself facing off against his old master, Obi-Wan Kenobi. The two were fairly evenly matched, and the fight looked as though it was going to end in stalemate until Kenobi got in some lucky swings and cut off Anakin's remaining arm and both legs. This is when Anakin truly became Darth Vader. As Vader, Anakin's lightsaber skills were still incredible, though he faced off against far fewer opponents, choosing to use intimidation over violence. So overall, it's clear that while Starkiller was a great warrior when it came to using a lightsaber, it is Anakin that absolutely dominates this arena. In fact, if Starkiller and Anakin were to face off against each other, we predict Starkiller would use a lot of the Force powers to try to get the upper hand. However, Anakin's brute strength and connection to the dark side would power through and lead him to a decisive win.
His spies followed you here.
The next category we get is who had the better masters. Both Starkiller and Anakin had multiple influences in their lives, but who had the stronger and more influential masters? We'll start off with Anakin this time. His main master was Obi-Wan Kenobi, a strong, powerful, and accomplished Jedi Knight in his own right. While Kenobi sometimes struggled to help Anakin maintain his balance, there was no other Jedi more qualified for the job. Anakin also had training from several members of the Jedi High Council, including Master Yoda, who was widely considered to be one of the greatest and most wise Jedi that ever lived. Then later, when he became Darth Vader, his master became one of the most effective Sith Lords in history, Darth Sidious, the Emperor of the entire Galactic Empire. Looking to Starkiller, he had two different masters, both of whom were on the opposite ends of the scale. First up, Starkiller trained under the tutelage of Darth Vader, where he learned the ways of the dark side and how to harness his power for evil. Vader was not a patient or nurturing master, instead choosing cruelty to train Starkiller, forcing him to be for a kind of barely controllable wild animal. On the other side of the scale was Jedi Master Ram Kota. While Starkiller had initially dueled the Jedi, defeating him and even blinding him, the two formed a connection after Vader rejected Starkiller. Kota helped take that amalgamation of evil and hate within the Lost Man and mould it into a force for good rather than evil. This helped balance Starkiller out, making him a powerful Force user that was neither aligned to the Sith nor the Jedi. Overall, Anakin definitely had the better masters. He had two powerful lightsaber Force users that tried to help him become the best Jedi he could be, and even though they failed, they believed in him until the end. Starkiller, on the other hand, was being pulled in all kinds of directions. One master was pulling him in the direction of evil, and the other to balance him out. Ultimately though, Starkiller's two polarizing masters were far less effective than Anakin's masters. Finally, we're going to look at who had the most impact on the galaxy as a whole. Despite Starkiller's power, he had very little effect on the galaxy, at least directly. Indirectly, he helped sow the seeds of rebellion and revolution that would one day become the Rebel Alliance. The Rebel Alliance stood up against the Galactic Empire, the last bastion of hope in an oppressed galaxy. It was in part thanks to Starkiller that the group was formed and fought back, ultimately pulling down the Empire and bringing back peace to the galaxy for several long decades until the time when the First Order played their hand. So while Starkiller's direct impact on the galaxy was fairly small, his indirect impact led to the fall of one of the most oppressive and violent regimes the galaxy had ever seen. But Anakin's direct impact on the galaxy cannot be denied. He was Vader, the Iron Fist of the Galactic Empire. He was the one that physically went to the Jedi Temple when Order 66 was initiated and killed every Jedi and youngling he could find. He was the one to strike down his former master and one of the last sparks of the Jedi, Obi-Wan Kenobi. He was the one to strike fear into the hearts of trillions as he spearheaded the Galactic Empire's campaign across the galaxy. As a Jedi, Anakin had shown potential to bring balance to the Force, just as the prophecy foretold, but it wasn't until he became a Sith apprentice that he truly started to effect change. Anakin, having been redeemed by his son Luke Skywalker, was the one to end the reign of Darth Sidious, killing him in his one last act of good and kindness. Overall, while Starkiller had a sizable indirect impact on the galaxy, Anakin was the one that really changed the course of galactic history. There is no denying that Anakin, the Chosen One, affected the entire galaxy for both the better and the worse. Ultimately though, after plunging it into darkness, he left it in a place of light and hope. At the end of the day, both Starkiller and Anakin Skywalker were incredible Star Wars characters. They both have their strengths and weaknesses, but what makes them both so awesome is how everyone can relate to them. They are both flawed and suffering Force users that we as viewers and consumers of the content can relate to. Go and watch the Skywalker saga or play the Force Unleashed games and make up your own mind on who is better. So there you have it, that was Starkiller versus Anakin Skywalker. What do you think? Do you agree with our points about these two incredible characters, or have you come to a different conclusion? We'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions, so drop them down below in the comments section. Thanks for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.